This week we bring you UTV action from King of the Hammers, LACC, IXCR, and the Pro Rock series out at Dirty Turtle. Strap in as we bring you up to the race pace. Everybody, welcome to the inaugural episode of Race Pace presented by CW Motorsports. I'm Doug.
And I'm Chad.
And as we've hinted at before, this is going to be a little bit more of a compact format than our previous show, so we're going to jump straight into it and talk about a few of the things that have happened in the racing world since, well, we left the airwaves a couple weeks ago. Everything's kind of started up finally, and King of the Hammers was one of the first ones out of the gate. And honestly, it was a great year out there. I mean, it was a really, really challenging course. Even the people who were top of the mark out there turned only a couple of laps, and there was definitely a lot of action out there.
Yeah, it was really neat. King of the Hammers is always one of my favorite things to watch. I kind of just plunk myself down in front of the TV, and it's one of the few events that I actually do that. Steve Mueller got to travel out there along with David Sauter. They went out there and CNR Racing put them up. I was wanting to go. It just didn't work out with my schedule and everything else. Just family life. It didn't work out, but I would like to try and make it out there next year, and I think I'm going to make that kind of a priority.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do the same. I really, that's kind of a bucket list type of item, and definitely need to find ourselves out there. But
yeah, for sure.
Some of the names that you would normally expect to see at the top of the pack were there one more time. Hunter Miller finishing in the number 1 spot with Kyle Cheney in second, and Phil Blurton comes up in the number 3 spot. Rounding out the top 5, you've got Mitch Guthrie Sr. and Nathan Wolf.
Nathan Wolf, not too far from local for us Midwest guys.
No. And honestly, Mitch Guthrie Sr. just... that's like a perennial name. He's always up there at the top. I mean, that guy just has a super consistent program running.
He does, and that's kind of his race style too. He's just a consistent. He's not the fastest guy out there, but he just consistent, just keeps going at a good pace the whole way through.
He's Steve Mueller's spirit racing guide.
Spirit animal.
I don't want to say spirit animal, but since you went there,
I'll say it. There is, I think kind of the big news, there's a couple different stories out there that were the big news of King of Hammers. First of all, Jason Weller, he on qualifying broke, I think it was his drive shaft is what he broke.
Yeah, it was the front drive shaft. He came off of a jump and evidently was really excited about the jump and just left his foot planted on the throttle. So he landed, as he described it, basically flat to the floor.
Yeah. And when he did that, he broke. He was able to get it off the track after a little bit, but it ruined his time that he had going. And so I believe, I'm doing this from memory at this point, his initial qualifying position was 58th or something similar to that. So he was way back in the pack.
Way back. But he ended up pulling himself all the way up to the number 8 spot. So he had a pretty good year out there.
That is pretty amazing when you consider that the staggered starts and everything else and all the things that happen, just the amount of people that actually break or don't do all that well, to actually go to gain 50 positions.
That's
in a race,
amazing. Yeah.
That's a lot. So hats off to Jason Weller. Good job out there.
Absolutely. And then, of course, I think if you haven't seen this story already, we're going to throw the video in, but you probably have not been following UTVs terribly closely because this was posted everywhere. Kyle Cheney flipped his buggy, and he and his co-driver got it flipped back over onto 4 wheels, but it was in neutral at the time, so it starts rolling backwards. It rolls over his leg, breaks his foot and his lower leg below the knee, and he was still able to climb back in the car. And this is his right foot. This is the throttle foot.
Yeah.
And he climbs back in the car and ends up finishing second.
Yeah. He, I think he went back to 6th or something like that, 6th or 7th, something like that when all this happened. And it wasn't like, oh, he's just got, another couple miles to go. He raced for like another 2 hours with a broken foot and leg.
I'm just trying to imagine holding the throttle pedal down in, a UTV on a really, really punishing course. I mean, this even by our normal, cross country style racing that we do is a really, really punishing course, even by those standards.
It is. From the story that Kyle was telling and some people that know him personally, and they were telling me the same thing. Basically, when the UTV ran him over, it pulled his racing shoe off of his foot, and he went to put it back on and realized his toes were now laying backwards on top of his foot.
If anybody doubts his resolve or how badly he wants to win, I think they need to shut up now.
Yeah. So he put his foot back in the general position it was supposed to be.
Flipped his toes back, pointing forward again.
Yeah. Threw his shoe on, and he went racing for another couple hours.
Yeah.
And he was making time. He was passing people and everything else. It wasn't like, oh, he's just out there to try and salvage what's left of his race. He was pushing, and for the longest time he was closing in on Miller, but he just couldn't close the gap. There's too much. But he passed Phil Blurton back, and he passed several people who I can't remember how many positions he went back at the time.
Well, but, and if you look at it, he was only 2 minutes 40 seconds behind Miller. I mean, he got really ridiculously close because he was 4 minutes ahead of Phil and something like 15 minutes ahead of Mitch Guthrie Sr. in fourth. So, I mean, he was putting some serious time down.
Right, and he was physical overall leader there for a little while until this all happened.
Yeah, so...
and he had put time on, I think he was 30 seconds behind Miller when they left, so he would have had him on adjustment had he been within 30 seconds. But even in the first lap, or before the first lap, he had put, I'm wanting to say it was like a minute or two on second place, so he was moving. But then flipped it, and that set him back several minutes, and the rest is history. He got second place, which is still an amazing finish, but and the story that goes along with it.
Yeah, it's one of those finishes that people are going to remember, and even though I'm sure he would have liked to have been first, the story that goes along with this is going to be kind of something of King of the Hammers lore. This is going to be one thing people will talk about for years.
Right. And then, was it Hunter Miller who stayed behind to race with the big boys?
Yeah, yes indeed.
Yeah. Hunter Miller stayed, and he raced with, I think it was a 4400 class of trucks.
Yeah.
Which are basically like anything goes. There's a lot of these machines that are pushing 1500 horsepower and turning like 44-inch tires. And these are not side-by-sides. These are full tube chassis trucks, like big trucks.
$500,000 trucks.
And he came in, was it 12th or something like that? I'm wanting to say it was 12th.
I can't remember, and unfortunately their website is deeply terrible in terms of switching between classes.
Yeah. But he actually did really, really well for what he was getting. Basically, what he was saying was in the rocks and the tight sections, his machine was small enough because he was running a 64-inch wide X3 that he could kind of creak through the rocks much quicker than they could. But when they got out in the open, amazingly enough, the X3 just ran out of legs compared to these 1500 horsepower machines.
Which seems crazy to say, but I mean, when you're talking 200 horsepower, they're fast, but there's no way you're going to keep up with that kind of machine out there.
Yeah, 1500 horsepower versus 200 or 250 or whatever he had.
Yeah,
there's no comparison.
Not at all. But bringing it back a little bit more local, none of our local series have started yet. There have been a few other ones out there that have kicked off already that we'll get to here in a minute. But we do have this weekend coming up. We've got the Pro Rock Series at Dirty Turtle down in southern Indiana. And a couple of our own favorite racers, Devin Smith and Steve Mueller, are actually going to be running there.
Yep, they're going to go down there. And I guess the way Pro Rock works is, so they have multiple ways that they do their races. They have hill killing events, and they have what they call survival, which their survival tend to be more like our XC racing.
They call it survival. We just call it racing.
Racing, yes. But Steve and Devin are both going to race down there, and then actually Devin's going to Ironman it. And after their Saturday morning race, he's going to jump in his truck and load up his hopefully still running and perfectly functional X3 and come all the way up to Attica, Indiana to the Badlands, and he's going to race the first IXCR event there.
Now, we were joking, if he was really an Ironman, he actually has an opportunity to run the LACC series down in Louisiana, which is about a 9.5-hour drive from there, maybe a 10-hour drive. But they don't race till Sunday afternoon. So in theory, after IXCR, he could load up and drive all the way down there as well.
Yeah, that would be painful. I don't think he'll do that either.
I'd be really impressed, though.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that he's planning on running back-to-back races, I'm curious. Any race is hard on a machine, so I'm curious how that affects his strategy and how he's going to show there at Dirty Turtle. Because I'm telling you what, if he came away with back-to-back wins in both of those, that would be really impressive.
It would be. So
if anybody can pull it off, I think he could do it.
I'm definitely going to attend the IXCR portion. I don't know if I'm going to drive down to Kentucky to catch the Dirty Turtle part. So I may be driving a lot that day as well, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see how everything goes for me this week and the amount of time that I have and everything else.
I'm about 80% that I'm going to be there at IXCR. I'm not going to make it all the way down to Dirty Turtle, which I said was Southern Indiana. Evidently, at some point, we have assumed Kentucky. We've just
yes.
We're just calling that South Indiana now.
Yes. No, that's down there in, I think it's Hebron, Kentucky, if I remember right.
Yeah,
somewhere
that's correct.
Down there. But either way, I'm definitely going to see, like Barry Miller will be racing IXCR. Several other of the local guys for us in the Midwest, they're going to show up for IXCR. IXCR has been having good numbers. They always have a good turnout at the Badlands because it's all sand, so you can get UTVs in there early.
Yes.
But it's an abusive track normally. It normally takes its toll on machines.
It does. I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as, say, Loretta Lynn from last year or the Texas race they had for AXCC. It's not that punishing, but it's still pretty. You better have your machine in shape, and I don't want to say take it easy because you need to race, you need to win, but you definitely have to have your wits about you if you're going to keep it together and run a whole race there.
Yeah. I don't think the weather's going to be bad for this year. In 2015, they had like a snowstorm, but it looks like we're going to be 45 degrees and pretty clear.
Yeah, it really doesn't look too bad.
I don't think. Yeah, it shouldn't be bad at all. So Barry's going to have his brand new X3. He's, as of last weekend when I talked to him, he said he will have no seat time in it. He's going out there cold.
Has he even broken in the motor? That's what my question.
He drove it from the display convention center thing we were at out to his truck.
Totally ready.
That was it.
Totally ready to go.
That's it. Fine.
That should be interesting. That'll be a real test of that machine. But I'll tell you what, looking at the build, I mean, he really spared no expense in terms of fortifying that thing where it needs to be and just setting it up for racing. That is a really impressive looking machine.
Oh, yeah. He's got CT front end, the whole brace kit, the A-arms, upper and lowers. He's got a clutch in it that it escapes me who it is. Tuned. I mean, it's ready. Cage was done by Nightcrawler.
And shout out to Nightcrawler. That is a really, really impressive cage. I mean,
it's a sharp-looking cage.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's pretty much gone over everything, and anything that could ever possibly be a problem has been replaced already.
Yeah. I noticed the rather large recovery ring on the back, though, and maybe hope he's not planning on using that too often.
Just to drag other people out, I'm sure.
Oh, of course. But yeah,
when he's bulldozing, he's going to hook someone to the back of him and take him with him.
Well, I wish everybody the best this coming weekend. I am probably going to be able to make it out to IXCR. Like I said, it's probably an 80% thing unless something weird comes up between here and there. I'll be there as well, and just really impressed that Devin is going to run both of those. That should be an absolute treat for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And one of our series that actually has started up already is the LACC. So that's the Louisiana Cross Country Series that runs down there in, guess where? Louisiana.
What do you know?
So one of our guys, Bubba Belair, runs down there, and actually quite a few names that you'd recognize from the AXCC ranks race down there as well. The S3 Power Sports team races quite a bit, and there's several other people that are from that general vicinity that run it as well. And they actually started up. That race was January 26th, I think.
Yeah, well, they're in the deep south, so they can get away with that. I was talking with Bubba on Facebook Messenger, and he was telling me how their race was going. And the funny thing was, the day that they were racing, it was, I don't know, 70 degrees there, 60 something degrees, whatever it was. And I told him, I was like, it's like 12 here right now.
Yeah, you would not be racing. That would be just a terrible mess.
Yeah.
They run a much shorter track than we're used to here in Indiana. We're used to, between 4 and 6 miles, and a lap that usually takes you in the 12 to 15 minute range, depending. So, given all those variables, you turn 4, 5, maybe 6 laps if it's a shorter course. They run for the same hour down there, basically, in LACC, but Bubba runs in UTV B Turbo, and he turned 11 laps in 55 minutes, 32 seconds.
Yeah, so that means he's turning 5-minute laps.
Yeah, so much shorter track down there. They also don't have the dense wooded hilly sections that we do. It's a little more wide open. I mean, there's still some hills and some trees and stuff like that, but it's more almost field racing than what we think of as cross country up here.
Right. They have large open field sections more so than we do.
Yeah. So they're able to get out there and stretch their legs a little bit more. But like we said, in the B Turbo, Bubba Belair takes top honors. Chris Fontaine was in second. And then we got a couple DNFs in Reeves Shackelford and Michael, and I'm going to butcher this last name, but I believe it's Vaness.
Okay.
Vanness. So take that for what you will.
Yep.
And over there in the A Turbo, how did we do up there? First place was Lance Ford with Chris Boyette in second, Jason Williams in third, and the A Turbo boys were turning 13 laps in 1 minute or 1 hour, 13 laps in a minute, 13 laps in 1 hour 3 minutes. So moving out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, they were moving. A lot of open section. I don't know how long that course was, but it had to be reasonably short anyway.
Yeah.
So.
But that's solid. Congratulations to everybody that ran that. They've actually run round 2 already, but there was no UTV in round 2, so they are actually running, as we noted already, on Sunday, March 1st. So this coming weekend, a lot of good racing coming up.
Yeah. It's really kind of the kickoff for a lot of XC style racing. The Louisiana guys, they started a little bit earlier, but it's just for a majority of it, this is kind of the kickoff weekend.
It's always a little bit harder in Indiana as well because you're basically just starting to get into frost melt. So while the snow may be gone, everything is just soup. I mean, a lot of these farmers' fields that and woods where we're racing, it's really tough to get machines in and out of there. So a lot of series basically don't even run the first round.
Yeah. MWXC there the following weekend after IXCR, but there's no UTVs round 1. It's just too soft. It's just too nasty.
No, and once they're stuck back there in that kind of mud, the only way you're getting them out with a skid steer, and it takes forever. It's hard to run a race that way and have anybody be happy with it.
Very true.
So yeah, we've got one name that was kind of notably absent this year, who has run UTVs in the past, was the Crossroads Series, but they're getting out of that game. So, but Extreme's kind of picked up the gauntlet. Extreme's running UTVs, so overall, you still have the same number of series that you can run here in Indiana.
Yep. It's sad to see Crossroads step out of it, but I understand it. They weren't getting a whole bunch of turnout for it. So I understand their decision.
Yeah.
And we've stated it several times in the past, but there's just a bunch of choices for racing in this area, in the Indiana area. So,
and then when you dogpile on top of it with AXCC's got a full schedule again this year, and then we've also got the short course series that's coming up at Wagler. So with all those options, if you're not getting the numbers, it probably just doesn't make sense to even mess with it.
Right. And I think that's where they were at with it, so that's fine.
And one final item on the agenda, we've got something going on at the Chad Ranch.
Yes, we do. So coming up here is March 15th. It's a Sunday. We're going to have STMs coming out to my place and a few racers, and they're going to do some tuning for their customers. It's basically, you need help, you want to get your clutches set up, they're going to be here. So I have the Sunday drive track everyone's kind of going to run on, and that'll be, they make some adjustments. You take it out on the track, run a lap, see how it feels. Because the Sunday drive track, although it's pretty short, it's about 1.25 miles in total. It's a good representation of what XC racing is in the area.
Yeah.
So there's some good open stretches where you're going to run a 1/4 mile of just flat out, just foot to the floor. And then there's, plenty of tight wood sections. There's no real uphills on that part. I could route them through the back part of the ground and put them on some uphills, but it's not going to gain them much of anything. They're going to know what the kickdown is on the clutches and everything else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you've got as good a private setup as you're going to get in terms of being able to tune something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I had Cody Willenborg say after he drove the Sunday drive track, he said, if I had a setup like that at my place, I'd never leave.
Exactly. It is really, really nice out there.
Yeah. So it is, I'm not saying it's open as far as, hey, everybody just come out and view. If you're wanting to bring a machine out, you run an STM clutch, and you would like to have them look at your machine and kind of help you dial it in, hit me up. Either through Eminent Performance or my personal Facebook Messenger. I can definitely get you out here. They're looking to kind of help everybody in the area that they can. So it's really nice of them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. We do want to say a big shout out to all of our sponsors. Of course, CW Motorsports, our title sponsor for this year, but we've also got 834 Powder Coat, Spangs Fab, and Watch Communications on board. They were all foolish enough to come back for another round of a brand new Unproven show, but we cannot tell you enough how much we appreciate all of your support.
Yep, thank you for joining in here and taking the ride with us.
Absolutely. You can find us on our webpage at eminentperformance.com. You can find us on YouTube /Eminent Performance, Facebook and Instagram /Eminent Racing. And if you can't remember any of that stuff, just go to eminentperformance.com. You'll find links to everything you need to find there. And yeah, I think that's going to close up shop for this one.
Yep, that'll do it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for riding along with us, and we will see you next time.
Yep, thank you guys.